Hey folks, welcome to Queens Storytellers Online. I'm David Lawson, your host and the curator of this series. Every week we're going to have four wonderful performers performing true stories from their lives. First up this week is Ivy Eisenberg, who runs Story Boom, a storytelling show up in White Plains, New York. Ivy's going to be performing a story about putting up with a bully on the bus in 1960s Queens. Next up, we have Andrew Sanford, who is a staff contributor for the website Pajiba. Andrew's going to be performing a story about a very eventful trip to the drugstore to pick up baby shampoo for his twin baby boys. After that, we have Kelli Dunham, a comedian whose most recent comedy album is called Not the Gym Teacher. Kelli's going to be performing a story about working for a particular corporation, leaving that corporation, and then having that corporation re-enter their life in a very unexpected and sweet way. Finally, this week, Christopher Moncayo-Torres. Christopher is the co-founder and managing director of Fail Better, a BIPOC and CUNY-centric artistic community that is operated just right here out of Queens. Christopher is going to be performing a story about riding the 7 train with his father to go see a particular Broadway show. Folks, once again, I'm David Lawson, your host and the curator of this series. This is Queens Storytellers Online. Enjoy the show.
I'm Ivy Eisenberg, and I grew up in Far Rockaway, Queens. I'm staring at my 5th grade picture, and there it is in the dead center, the top row, is a big, chunky, tall me, wearing this pink and orange paisley day-glow mini dress, sporting, ironically, a Twiggy haircut. And I vow to myself, I am never going to wear colors again. So in 6th grade, I start to wear muted colors. I wear nondescript hairdo. I walk to the back. I sit in the back of classrooms and auditoriums. I listen more than I speak, and I just focus on trying to become invisible. And it works. So it's 7th grade, I'm in junior high school. I'm on a typical Queens school bus, and I always walked straight to the back, even though there's no seat anyway. And one day, I start walking to the back, and I feel this poke on my right leg. And I look down, and there's Natasha, this tough-looking but pretty 8th grader with black eyeliner and this shiny jet black hair. And she's giggling with her friend, and she looks at me, and I see she's holding a pencil. Natasha's poked me. The next day I walk by, and Natasha sticks me with a ruler. I don't say anything. I just try to walk by her, look straight ahead, and sort of try to shift to my left as I'm walking by, but it's really hard because the bus is always really crowded. One day, a few days later, I'm walking by, and Natasha flicks her cigarette ashes on my knapsack. Yes, there's an 8th grader smoking on the bus. And no, the bus driver does nothing to stop it. I mean, he's just trying to survive the day like the rest of us. And this freaks me out a little bit. So I tell my mother. Now, something has to be pretty big to tell your mother. And my mom is like, oh, darn, and that's a curse word from my mother. That rotten kid. You just ignore her. She just wants to get a rise out of you. You ignore her and she'll go on to bother someone else. And I'm like, okay. So I ignore Natasha. I try anyway. And a few days later, Natasha burns me with her cigarette. Just a little nick, but it leaves a mark, and I don't say anything. I just try to lick it off as I try to make my way to the back, and I'm not going to say anything. I hope nobody saw it. It was pretty humiliating. And it happens again. And one day, Natasha takes a razor blade as I'm walking by, and she slices my maroon corduroy skirt, and she leaves such a gash that I have to hold my skirt together as I'm walking by the bus and all the way when I walk home. My mom is furious. She goes, "That monster, I'm going up to the school. Lou, we have to go to the school." And I'm like, no, don't go to the school. Could you imagine? I don't want my parents to go to the school. That would be crazy. I said, "No, don't worry. I'm just going to ignore her, Mom." So a few days after this, I'm walking by and I'm stuck right in front of Natasha and nobody's moving. And all of a sudden I look at her and she looks at me and she says, "Oh, you want to fight?" And I don't know, something comes over me and my cheeks get hot. And it's like I'm on fire and I start breathing. And I throw down my backpack and I said, "Yeah, I want to fight." And she jumps to her feet and she's like, yay high. She's like this little pipsqueak. And all of a sudden, the entire bus erupts. Fight, 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 fight. So we start fighting. I slap her and she slaps me and I start punching her and she gives me a punch. And then I take Natasha by her shiny jet black hair and I pull it as far as I can and I start hitting her head against the bus pole. And she digs her long fingernails into my hand and the blood starts spurting. But I do not let go. I am in such a rage and I just keep pulling and pulling and I start kicking her shins and all of a sudden the bus jerks to a stop. Not because there was a fight, because it was a bus stop and somebody had to get off. But the fight was over. And I pick up my knapsack and I stroll to the back of the bus like a big silent bear. And all around me, I hear the muffled sounds of people saying, "Oh, you did good, great job." People telling me I won the fight. And I feel like I'm in a boxing ring or the Coliseum. And I'm still shaking, but I'm feeling really good. And I go back to the bus. Well, that evening, when I get home, my brother races to me and says, "Ivy, you won the fight. Great job." Well, news had spread to the elementary school. And my sisters are around me at the dinner table and they want to hear all the details. And my mom is like, "I'm so glad you stuck up for yourself, that rotten kid. And she, I'm sure, is not going to bother you again." Well, Mom was right. Natasha never bothered me. She didn't even look at me. She looked the other way when I walked to the back of the bus. And in 8th grade, I started to wear eyeliner. And I'm putting my books away in my locker one day, and I'm noticing nobody is really that much shorter than me anymore. Everyone seems to be growing up. And I no longer needed to be invisible. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Andrew Sanford, and I am a writer and performer and director and father living in New York City. And I want to start this story out by saying that I am not pro-profiling. All right, just trust me. I know it's a weird thing to get out of the way first, but I just want to get that out there. I'm not profiling. In fact, I am, like I said, I'm a father. I'm a newish father. I'm to two beautiful twin boys who actually turned 10 months old today. And one of them has a very dark complexion, and the other one does not. My wife and I are both mixed raced, whichever way you prefer to say it. And that's just how the boys came out. And it dawned on me almost immediately that I will have to have a very different conversation with each son about how they deal with security guards or police or, I don't know, people in general. Like, one of them is just going to be treated very differently than the other one. And I actually, because of them, had an instance myself run-in with profiling not too long ago. Now, when the boys were very young, they had some trouble sleeping at night, like, most babies do. One of them would sleep pretty well. He would actually sleep a little too much. And the other would only sleep for a while if he was face down in a boppy pillow. And if you don't know what a boppy pillow is, it's basically like a horseshoe shaped pillow that you put around your waist. And you can like set a baby up and you can feed him there. So one of these babies was sleeping face down in that pillow that I just showed you. So he had to be watched at all times to make sure that he didn't Epstein himself. So my wife or myself would be up all night, usually in shifts, watching over him. And it was rough then. This was at a time when I could have spit up all over my shirt. My pants could be just like destroyed and I would not care because I wasn't going anywhere and I wasn't doing anything. I was just spending time with these two wonderful, lovely little boys that I care about so much. And I also love and care about my wife. And since she had just a few months earlier pushed two human beings out of her body, which I did not have to do, I tried to make sure that as often as possible, she got to sleep through the night. Instead of taking shifts, some nights I would just be like, you know what? I'm not going to wake her up. I'm just going to stay up, spend all night with the boys, and I'll get her like, early in the morning, around 6:30. And I'm not going to lie, that would be hard sometimes. And I am somebody who has dealt with insomnia for pretty much my whole life, which you'd think would make it easier to stay up. But in fact, the longer I stay up, the harder it is for me to eventually get to sleep. So to kind of ease that, I've been self-medicating for quite some time with, we'll call them jazz cigarettes, right? Some medicinal assistance. So on nights when I would be up all night, I would go smoke a little J and then come lay down to like 10:30 and be up to help my wife for the rest of the day, get about like 4 hours of sleep. So I was zoned. One particular morning, I was up until 6:30. My wife got up and I left her with the kids. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to go smoke a joint. But also we need orange juice. I think we needed baby soap, dish soap in particular. So I was like, I'm going to go to the Rite Aid. I'm going to go on a little adventure and go outside and go to a place where other people are, which was wild. So I go for a little walk to this Rite Aid and I smoke about half the joint and I'm like, I think I'm good. Like, at a certain point, you take so long from it, it hits you a little harder. So I was like, I'm good with like half a joint. So I toss it in my pocket as is. And I just walk into this Rite Aid and I walk in and there's about 3 people there, 2 employees and a security guard, and also technically employee, but they hire from like an outside source. So it's not like a security guard in a Rite Aid uniform. So I walk in and I see them and I'm like, well, kind of wave. And I just go right to my left where I know where the baby soap is because I know this Rite Aid. So I stop, I get the baby soap, and then I take like a beeline and I go all the way around to get to where the orange juice is, right? And I get the orange juice and I put them both. I got my Whole Foods bag. I pop them in my Whole Foods bag. And I turn and the security guard is on me, not in a literal sense, but in a he is very close. I look and he just goes, "You gonna pay for that?" And I said, "What?" He's like, "Are you gonna pay for that, right?" I was like, "Oh, weird. I don't know why I'm getting this kind of treatment." And there was like a quick moment where I was in like a fight or flight kind of reflex. I was like, I might have to take this dude on. I'm tired. I'm not fighting anybody, but for a minute, I was like, whoa, this kid, he's tall, he's scrawny, he's 19 at the oldest, and he looks terrified of me, which is in itself hilarious. But I was like, no, yeah, I'm gonna pay for it. I'm just trying to go to the register. Like he was between me and the registers, and none of the self-serve kiosks were open. So I had to like walk up and wait for somebody to come to the register because there was just nobody there. I don't know what happened, but by the time I walked in and got all the way around, everybody had like split for the wind. So I'm standing there with him, waiting for somebody to come to register, and he's still kind of hovering. And he's just like, sorry about this. And I was like, no, it's fine. He's like, yeah, we just had like a crazy night. And I was like, same. I was up all night with the boys. So like, I get it. Like, I understand. And he's like, yeah. Okay. Finally, somebody comes up to the register, the other employee. I go up, I pay, I take my things, and I go to leave. And he's like, hey, have a great day. And I was like, yeah, man. All right, whatever. Like, you have a great day too. And I got outside and I was mad. I'll be honest with you. I was upset. I was like, I'm just walking into this Rite Aid. I was just purchasing some pretty normal things and going to leave. And I was like, what did he start? Like, why pick me out and be like, this guy's going to cause trouble? And that's when I realized that I had half a joint in my pocket, which reeked. Even I can tell that it's really, like, for any pot smokers out there, like, eventually you kind of like lose the sense of smell towards it. Like, it doesn't, but even I was like, that's pretty strong coming from my pocket. Also, as is the way at the time, I was wearing a shirt that was covered in spit up, just everywhere, just these big white spit up stains on the front of my shirt. And it's also at this moment that I realize there is a giant rip down the back of my shorts. They are basically split open in the back. So I walk in to this Rite Aid at 6:30 in the morning, reeking of weed, covered in spit up, with a rip down to the back of my shorts. And the only personal detail that I gave this gentleman was, I was up all night with the boys. He doesn't know I have children. He doesn't know what that means. He just knows that I was doing something last night that found me high in a Rite Aid at 6:30 in the morning. So all that to say, I'm not pro profiling, right? But I get it. Like, I understand. Like, I'm going to have a conversation with my sons that's like very different about how they deal with people in police. But I can have the same conversation with both of them, that like, maybe change your shirt or your pants, or put the weed, like put your joint in like a little container so it doesn't smell as much when you walk into a Rite Aid at 6:30 in the morning with a poor security guard who has probably had to deal with much worse throughout the night. So again, not pro profiling, but I get it.
Hey, my name is Kelli Dunham. I was so much of a born-again Christian in high school that I wore my "No Surfing in Hell" t-shirt for my senior photo, unironically. I had attended church at least 3 times, as many as 5 times a week. And the church folks who were really, really kind to me, they all attended the extremely conservative but blandly named Mid-America Bible College in Oklahoma City. Mid-America makes it sound like I'm just making it up to be generic, but that's the actual name they gave it. Because they went to Mid-America Bible College, that became my dream. And no one really pressured me, although I imagine if I decided I was going to go to Smith, somebody would have intervened. The lifestyle, covenant, and behavioral expectations of Mid-America Bible College forbade drinking alcohol, smoking cigarettes, dancing, or being seen at establishments maintained for the purposes of dancing. And the student conduct guide also explained that acting on what it euphemistically called sexual confusion was an expulsion-worthy offense. I'd been on campus just a month when a senior I hadn't so much as chatted with looked me up and down, ran back to his dorm room, turned and handed me this little booklet. It was black and white and entitled "Homosexuality, Barrier to Intimacy." I was so deeply closeted, even or perhaps especially to myself, that didn't offend me, it just confused me. Now, senior students with excellent gaydar notwithstanding, I was able to find my place at Mid-America Bible College. And of course, yes, you guessed it, the volleyball team. I had a huge crush on a senior who was the team captain, but in the truest repressed gay fashion, had I no idea this was a crush. I just thought I really liked the smell of her Gloria Vanderbilt body lotion. Now, none of us on the volleyball team were doing anything more forbidden than like giving each other back rubs in the dark after our late night systematic theology study sessions. But when the team captain invited me to spend the summer with her in Springfield, Missouri, I knew, of course, I had to accept this generous but platonic offer. The only place hiring for the summer in Springfield, Missouri was the Bass Pro Fishing Company Catalog Fulfillment Center. At the interview, a very bored-looking woman checked my paperwork to make sure I was, legal age to work in factory and hired me. I said, "You don't need any special skills?" It's not brain science. I think she was combining it's not brain surgery and not rocket scientist, not rocket science. I started that night at the 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. shift with a 3-minute orientation from a lightly cranky woman chewing on a cigar. The box comes down the conveyor belt, and then you grab the catalog order form. Look for what they ordered over here. And then she gestured to this entire warehouse full of these tiny fishing-related objects in hundreds and hundreds of bins. I said, how do I know where to find them? She said, you look. They're also labeled. You grab it, and then you make sure you have the right number. My question about how to find the items, it made her reconsider whether this was enough explanation. Like if they order 2 of something, you pick out 2. If they order 3, you put in 3, right? Like that. Then you put them in the box and then let the box go down the belt. It's easy, right? Sure, I said. Easy. She left. I grabbed the order form from the first box I saw, headed enthusiastically into the towering bins of fishing tackle and examined each one. Okay, so I'm looking for a Strike King Rage Bug and a Meps Muskie Flash Boost Spinner and a Muskie Mayhem Tackle Double Showgirl Spinner. I had no idea what any of these might have looked like or even the general category of items they were. Although in retrospect, they kind of sound like a real drag queen names, right? So I started methodically reading the tiny, tiny print on the bins. Okay, War Eagle Tandem, Willer Spinner Baits, Booyah Tucks and Tails, Spinner Baits Double Colorado, Panther Martin, Fish CU, Salmon, and Steelhead Spinner. Okay, I had to read 27 bin labels before I found even the first item. As I returned to the conveyor belt with my Strike King Rage Bug, I had to run 30 yards to catch the box. So I grabbed the box off the conveyor belt and just took it on the next round of bin reading. It took me 17 bins and 13 bins respectively to find the next 2 items. And when I returned what I thought triumphantly back to the conveyor belt, my cigar chewing supervisor was just standing there. She looked at me, at all the boxes that were piling up falling off the conveyor belt, sighed, and hit the stop conveyor button on the wall behind her. I had just created the Bass Pro Fishing Lure Catalog Fulfillment Center equivalent of Lucy and Ethel in the chocolate factory. I mean, maybe you didn't need any special skills for this job, but you clearly needed to be able to recognize fishing lures on site in order to keep up with the conveyor belt. Where are you from? She asked, with a tone of voice that implied she thought the moon was 100% most likely response. I've got a worm counter coming your way, Betty, she said into her walkie-talkie. I got demoted to night shift worm counter at the Bass Pro Catalog Fulfillment Center. Worm counter is the kind of employment where the job description is wholly encompassed in the job title. They sat me at a table in a very chilly room for the comfort of the worms. On my left was a huge bin of rich black earth, just trembling with hundreds of night crawlers. And on my right were these white plastic containers. My job was to pull the worms out of the soil and carefully place 12 worms in each white container and kind of cover them over with a little bit of traveling soil. The next morning, when I stopped by 7-Eleven to get a Diet Coke on my way home, a woman ladling chili under her self-serve nachos said, man, something smells like worms around here. Not something, someone, me. Now, you might think that this turn of events would cause me to quit my job at the Bass Pro Catalog Fulfillment Center. Nope. This Bass Pro was the only place hiring, and I needed a job to stay in town. Never, never underestimate the power of a repressed homosexual's crush on their volleyball team captain. So I didn't quit, but when I came in the next night around 3 a.m., Betty came to inform me that the spot checks on my worm counts had been wrong 4 times in 4 hours. There was no additional place to demote me to from the original worm counter demotion. And so she informed me that my services would not be needed at the Bass Pro Catalog Fulfillment Center. It was early enough in the summer that I was still able to get a job at the camp that I'd worked at previously, but it was in Columbus, Ohio, not in Springfield, Missouri, where my crush was. This was very sad. I bought a bottle of Gloria Vanderbilt lotion, not to wear, but to smell when I really missed the volleyball captain. But because she was a heterosexual, she did not miss me in the same way. I left Bible college after the next year, and it took me many years and so many different religious pathways before I came to the conclusion that if there was a God, that particular God didn't create queer people just so that God would have someone to hate. And from then on, I had the kind of life, just, the normal level of difficulty with plenty of modern homosexual joys. and I've happily lived in Brooklyn since 2007. Last year, I started dating somebody who lives in Memphis, Tennessee, and she's the kind of person, she's the kind of person that would make a New Yorker who has lived in a rent stabilized apartment since 2007 and who always says like, I'm going out of here only feet first. She's the kind of person who makes that kind of person say, oh, well, obviously I can just date long distance. She's brilliant and beautiful. My brother calls her Trinity from the Matrix, and she can bench press 110 pounds for 30 reps. And she's also extraordinarily kind, and we are very compatible, and she's very sweetly indulgent of me. So when I found out that a glass pyramid-shaped building in downtown Memphis is actually a huge Bass Pro retail shop / capitalist extravaganza, complete with, I think they have like archery range, shooting range, laser arcade, and saltwater aquarium. When she saw my eyes react to that information, she just laughed. Yes, of course we can visit. So we spent a few hours perusing the largest collection of waterfowl and hunting related equipment in the world, so says Wikipedia, consumed an unexpectedly tasty meal at the Sky High Catfish Cabin on the 32nd floor of the pyramid. And then we made out passionately under a 7-foot-tall taxidermied black bear. Walking past the alligator tent into the parking lot, she grabbed my hand and said, "This wasn't hard? It didn't bring up sad memories?" I thought for a second and then grabbed her in a big bear hug. Not like a taxidermied bear hug, but bear hug of a very grateful person who just realized they've been giving a beautiful healing moment they didn't even know they need. Nope, I whispered into her ear, because now this is a happy memory. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Christopher Moncayo-Torres, and here's my story. So it's August 2004. I'm 19, and I'm at the doorway of what's going to be my new apartment. I should say my new bedroom that I'm going to share with my father, who I haven't seen since I was 2. The plan is we're going to move in together, and we're going to get to know each other in this really quick, crazy way. He's only renting the room. The rest of the apartment belongs to somebody else. The bedroom is split 2 ways. Left side's mine, right side's his. Left side is a mattress that he stole from me. On the right side is very messy. It's got lottery tickets that are ripped up, like the scratch offs. He's got Western Union receipts because he's sending money to that third family. Dad likes to set up franchises everywhere he goes. And he's got movies all over the ground. And he's got like Terminator, he's got Die Hard, he's got like all these like kind of macho movies going on. But every night he'd watch the same thing over and over. And that was Fiddler on the Roof. I can't tell you why the Ecuadorian man would watch this 3-hour, what I came to find out, beautiful saga about this Jewish family and like pre-Russia. And he couldn't tell me because, one, I don't think he really articulated it, but also we just had this language barrier between us. My Spanish is, I would say, muy malo, to put it that way. And also we just have a father-son language barrier. So he asked me to watch it with him, but I would never feel comfortable quite yet to watch it with him. The space was small, yes, but also I just wasn't ready to spend too much time with him. I think I rushed into the whole plan of getting to know him. So I felt pretty bad, but kind of serendipitously that fall, Fiddler on the Roof came to Broadway. And I thought, great, maybe this is like going to be our first story. This is going to be our thing. I'm going to make it happen. I'm going to get these tickets. I'm going to surprise him. So I can only afford balcony tickets because I'm just on like CUNY tuition at the time. I get them. I go up to him. I've got my English to Spanish translation book open, ready to go. And I'm like, papi, vamos, outside, afuera, let's go. And I'm like pantomiming everything that I can. And I'm like looking like a fool in front of my father. Now, mind you, my father's in this bedroom, like laid out, already looking like a fool himself. He's like in his undies because that's what he always did. He'd just come home, take off his pants, put on the coat rack, and just have his like 250-pound belly out, all, salt and peppered hair. And he's just hanging out looking at me, and he's trying to understand what I'm saying. And I'm like, Dad, let's go out. He's like, no, mijo, like, quedamos en la casa. And, the Spanish you're hearing is very well rehearsed on my end. He's just like, no, stay in the apartment. We'll watch Fiddler on the Roof. And I'm like, no, let's go. Listen, I'll pay for everything. He's like, great. All right, hand me my pants. Let's go. So we jump on the 7 train. And the thing about my father is that he likes to smoke not just on the train, but in between the train carts. I think for some reason in his brain, he's just like, well, I'm following the rules, but I'm also like not bothering anybody. And it always makes me nervous because it's just between the train carts and anything can happen. We get into Times Square and we're moving along, but my dad likes to not walk and talk. He likes to stop and tell you a story. So he's just like telling me stories about my brothers. And I really want to hear these stories because this is kind of the point. But I'm like, we got to make the show. We're running on that Ecuadorian time. Like, please, let's not be a cliche. I drag him by the sleeve like he's my kid. We get there, go up to the balcony, and he must be thinking we're going to watch a movie or something because he's not asking questions. We sit down, lights go down, curtains rising. And I know this much at the first numbers, like the big numbers, tradition. It just gives you just a feel for the whole story and what it's all about. And I'm thinking he's going to hear this. He's going to cry. He's going to look at me. I'm going to be the best son ever. I get to gloat to like my older brothers and sisters and I'm doing this. All I hear is snoring because this guy is just dead asleep with low lights. He's like in his 60s. Of course he's asleep. I nudge him and he's just like, oh, mijo, I'm great. I'm fine. This is great. This is awesome. I love this. This is great. So my arrested, developed, abandoned heart is kind of just like broken. And I'm thinking like, well, this is a bust. He did perk up for that song, If I Were a Rich Man, because that's like his life story right there. Intermission happens and he's just really focused because his phone's ringing during the show. He's hard of hearing. So he's like, he tends to yell because he can't hear too well. And he's on his phone and intermission and he's talking to that third family and I can't help but feel kind of jealous, even though like I'm 19 and you know, I feel ashamed of feeling jealous of this other family. It's just, I want my dad to focus on me. I want my dad to focus on what's happening right now. And I don't feel like he's focusing. Intermission's over. I'm kind of checked out, but I'm still listening to the story. And we're up to this one song where the husband's asking the wife, but do you love me? No, he wants to know if he wants to hear it. And she's like, that's a stupid question. Of course I love you. Like, I cook for you, I clean for you, I've raised all your kids, but she doesn't say it, but she's just like, what kind of question is that? But he wants to hear it. So Alfred Molina, who's playing Tevye, he takes these really long beats when he's doing it. So he's like squeezing it for all it's worth. And in one of these long gaps of silence, I suddenly hear next to me, but do you love me? And I turn, it's my father. He says the line, I smile, kind of laugh, and the people around us heard him and they laughed. In a very quiet theater, that is very loud. And that just echoes throughout. And Melina looked up right in our direction, up in the balcony. And I swear, probably just for a second, but it felt like forever. And my father, who's like the Latino Paul Bunyan of my life, because I heard so many stories about him, just shrinks in his seat and just tries to hide. And I'm like, oh my God, like, okay, show's over. We're outside. My dad's super excited. He wants me to take photos with my flip phone of the posters of the show, which have Tevye, Alfred Molina with his hands up. And I'm taking the photos. And then in the middle of taking the photos, I turn around and I hear a bunch of people trying to get signatures. They're at the stage exit door. And I know at least this much about theater, even though I didn't grow up with it. Oh, people get signatures from the actors, and Alfred Molina is giving signatures. So I tell Dad, hey, let's go get a signature. He's like, no, mijo, let's go home. No. And I'm like, oh, he's probably just embarrassed. Like, come on, it'll be fun. I drag him by the sleeve again, like he's my kid. Hey, Mr. Molina, we love the show, right, Dad? Give him the playbill. He signs it. I'm like, hey, Mr. Molina, I'm gonna tell you a funny story. Recount everything that happened in the balcony. He does not laugh. He just stares at me. And he's got these thick eyebrows. So I kind of feel like he shoved me to the side with those. And he looks at my dad and he puts his hand on my dad's shoulder and he kind of grips him. And I'm like a little scared for my dad. And he's like, did you say that? Did you say my line? Is that true? He asked my dad. And my dad just sort of looks up at him and it's just like, and then Molina raises up his hand and smacks my dad in the arm. He says, congratulations, you made your Broadway debut. Way to go. My dad's super happy. Like, he's just like, oh my God, that's yeah. He grabs him and kind of practically lifts Molina off the floor, tells me to take another photo with my flip phone. And I take the photo, thank Mr. Molina, and we exit. We're on the 7 train. We're heading back into Sunnyside, Queens. And my dad's just enamored with this phone. He's just looking at this photo. And I'm sitting across from him and I'm staring at him. And I think it just kind of clicks. I get up, I sit next to my dad. And in like a mix of Spanish and English, I kind of just tell my dad, like, I think I get it. yo pienso que you are Tevi. I think you're the guy. Like you're this immigrant man who's also trying to keep his families together, but you can't. No matter what you do, much like the guy in the story. And it all clicked for me, especially because it was the first time I saw all of it together. And I'm like, oh, maybe this is why you like it. Do you think that's true? And he just stares at me and he doesn't say anything. And he just squeezes my leg and he just says, Mijo, tonight was a good night. Tonight was a good night. And he gets up and he goes for a cigarette in between the train carts. Now, if you ever ride the 7 train and you're going into Queensboro Plaza, it does this sharp turn. So he kind of stumbles in between the train carts and he's just looking like a shadow from where I'm sitting. And if you've ever seen the poster, it's kind of looking like the silhouette of the fiddler on the roof. And I'm like, oh my God, he's gonna break his neck, just like Tevye talked about. Safely, he's fine. We get off the train, and my dad is just singing the songs, telling me his favorite parts. And he's just so excited. And we get in the bedroom and we're talking, and we just end up falling asleep. And that was actually the first time that me and my dad just like spent the time together in that bedroom, and that was our first story together. Thank you.